Etepu, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste, Harun Nefer. This is Kasak Ma Keparu with another video for you. And you're probably wondering, what's up with the panda? Sorry, but I just gotten hooked on panda videos for some reason. I like watching them eat the bamboo, so it's been a little bit of a hobby of mine. Yeah, I love pandas. They're great. They're very smart creatures. And they're a mixture of black and white. Wow. Isn't that kind of like very auspicious for our topic today, you know? So we're going to talk about today how to eliminate racism. And I am going to get deep into this. I'm going to try and give you guys some really deep information. So stay with me, man. Stay with me. All right. 1 second here before we get going. I want you guys to hit the like button. All you Magi, hit the like button. And if this is your first time watching, please subscribe to the channel. And if you get an opportunity, feel free to hit us up for, please give donations on our super chat. Am I coming through? Can you guys hear my sound and everything is good? If you can let me know in the chat box, I really would appreciate that. Hetepu Mike, Suan, Hetepu, how you doing? How am I sounding? Am I coming in okay? Thank you. All right. So, it was funny this morning. I got up and I looked myself in the mirror, and I will, I usually would just check myself out because I'm very pretty. But anyway, I digress. So I had a big presentation today. So some people were flying in, and we had this meeting, and it did not go as expected. It was hilarious. I mean, I asked questions a lot, I talked a lot, and the presenters were there, and somehow, some way, the meeting went south. I was planning it to go in one direction, and it went in a totally opposite direction. So after, we broke, the team broke, they just started making fun of me. It was just hilarious, all right? And I'm not going to go into the details of what it was all about, but I was thinking to myself, now, I thought this was going to work out. This is going to be a meeting. I was going to ask clever questions. They're going to see how much I knew on the subject. That I was a subject matter expert, and somehow or another, this does not go as planned. Now, it didn't go bad. It went good in the wrong way. So I don't know if you understand what that means. But anyway, here's the point I'm trying to make. So I was thinking, well, what happened? How did this go in the total opposite direction that I was planning, right? And one thing when you realize is when you embark on this path of being magical or being a magician or being a priest or being a shaman or shawoman, what they don't tell you in these books on The Secret, Law of Attraction, Transurfing, is that, yeah, you can control your reality. You can manifest any reality that you want. But there's a little key there that you can't forget. We talk about the emotions, making sure that your emotions are strong and you're focusing strongly on the visualization of what you want. But there's something that supersedes all of that. And it's not karma. It's not your past life, which can in many cases supersede your will or your magical ability to create a new reality or shift to a parallel world. But what could supersede even over your karma from your past life is the thoughts and emotions that you have accumulated over the course of years on this planet, meaning how you were raised. Because you've been conditioned through working with your parents, being brought up by them. You've been conditioned by society to think in a certain way. And those conditionings are very strong emotional impulses that even though you may bury in the back of your mind, they surface. And when they surface being in the fourth dimensional reality that we see before us, or the Maya, the illusion. So here I was planning on working my magic and making this meeting go this way. And I recall specifically this week me thinking about certain things in my past and replaying them in my mind. And lo and behold, what happened in that meeting was a direct reflection on my past. And I could blame no one else but myself. This is what it means to be an adult. This is what it means to be a true magician, where you look at the world and you don't blame your negative circumstances on people, on situations, on the government, on the weather, on car accident, traffic. You say to yourself, I am the cause of things in the world and not the effect. Do you understand what I'm saying? It takes a mature adult to admit that and take responsibility and accountability for that. So if I'm having an interaction with my mate and things don't go well, and usually I'll just imagine another sexier, finer woman. But no, never mind. You didn't hear that. But if things don't go well, I keep her. Yeah. I realize that, hey, she is nothing but an avatar. She is a product of my creation in this holographic experience. What have I been thinking? What emotions and beliefs have I been harboring so that we have this argument or we have this disagreement? Because it's really a projection of what's going on inside of me. Does that make sense? Do you see where I'm coming from? Aaron, what's up? Etepu, do you see where I'm coming from, Aaron? The real Aaron. Etepu. So you have to take responsibility for what's going on in your life and stop blaming it on external circumstances, because there's nothing really that's external. Everything starts within and emanates from within and without. You think that there is a reality, but there is not a reality there. It's merely a holographic experience, and it's not solid. But the synaptic connections in your brain, connect in such a way that it gives the illusion of being solid. Okay? Because we know subatomic particles are always vibrating at certain frequencies. They're not standing still. Okay? So keep that in mind, because the reality is all things are possible, but there are certain things that are not probable. Make sense? Ready to go. Let's do this thing, okay? So let's do this. Let's talk about how do we end racism. And this is a very interesting topic that I've spent a number of years dissecting and looking into this. And you have to be careful, because when you start elevating yourself to a higher level of consciousness, and we'll talk about that, you have to step apart from things and be objective and look at things in a very different way. In fact, I don't have it here. The tarot, let me see if I can bring that up, because I think that would be a great visual display. Because in the hold on a second, because I think this would be great if you could, if you guys could see this one. Bear with me. I'm bringing it up. Now, the tarot deck has a card called the Hangman. So what is the Hangman? The Hangman is a symbol of someone who is not only stationary, but in deep contemplative and meditative thought process, but the Hangman is looking at the world in a very, very different way. You know what I mean? And that's how sages and wise men were able to come up with the Holy Scriptures and come up with profound insight onto certain things. Because they looked at the world upside down. They looked at the world in a very, very different way. So we know the definition of reality is doing the same thing. I'm sorry, the definition of insanity, sorry about that. Definition of which really isn't reality. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. That's where we've gotten ourselves into. So it takes the Hangman to look at things in a very, very different perspective. So we've got to now look at this problem. I think it was Einstein was saying you can't use the same mindset that created the problem to solve the same problem. And the mindset that we're talking about is left brain linear thought process, which has basically dominated the planet. And that's what I've spent a large portion of my career as a magi studying. I'm saying, what is the root cause of racism? And many people will say, well, it's economic based, but it's really judging people by skin alone. And I'm like, no, that's not it. When we look at racism is not the cause but an effect. It's polarized left brain thinking is the cause of the problems that we're facing. All right? Because, let me put it to you this way. If we were right brain, integrated brain thinkers, we would not have this issue. Okay? And the reason why we would not have this issue is because the right brain, integrated brain thinking thinks in a very specific way that does not allow for externalized, what I call is 5 sensory input, meaning that you're only looking at things from a concrete perspective, what your senses can see, hear, feel, and taste and all that. And as we look at the chart, we're dominated by sensory perception when we're focused in left brain thinking. We know left brain is linear thought. It seeks to separate based on externals. So it sees a black person and separates them and says, you're different. Sees male and female, it separates them and says, you're different. You have no relation to each other. You're totally different. So it's a very logical thought process. It seeks to analyze. It is also labels things, defines things. And this is where we've gotten ourselves into trouble because it's split hairs so much. So it's gone and labeled and defined things to the umpteenth degree. So it's not only that you are, they say right now there's not just 2 genders. There's 102 genders now. So that's the left brain going crazy, creating 102 genders. So there's not just the Democrat or Republican, not as left wing, right wing, conservative, liberal, So feminists, men's rights activists, you start to create these labels. But the only thing they do is they create division, more and more division. And when that happens, then that's how you have the very seeds of dissension. And you're setting things up in such a way that now you're leading toward things like a civil war, things like a race war. Because you have, through your logical left brain thought process, created an environment and a situation where you have put people against each other based on erroneous names and definitions. Okay? Now, when we look at the right brain, what does the right brain do? It's problem solving. It seeks to bring things together versus to separate them. It's creativity, it's the imagination. More importantly, it's holistic thinking, meaning it doesn't look at the effect, but it looks at the cause. That's why it is good at problem solving. We will never solve the problems of racism, sexism in this society as long as we are dominated by left brain thinking. You follow me? Ra, Hetepu, Aset, Namaste. This is how we get to the root of the cause. All right? Because we're never, ever going to change the way people are through external means. I could talk to you about, hey, you know what? You should have tolerance. You should be accepting of people of various different nationalities, religious, political affiliations. But that's just the left brain verbally communicating ideas and concepts and labels and names. But there's no way that you can change the person truly from the heart, because the left brain is not the seat of emotions. It is not the seat of the subconscious mind. It is the right brain that is the gateway to the emotions and to the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is where true change happens. You understand what I'm saying? All right. One of the first things that we have to accept and understand in our re-education is that you are not the body. You are not a color. You are not a nationality. You are consciousness having a fourth dimensional experience. You are the observer, the all-seeing eye of Osir. You are the watcher. Now, your essence of who you are can be broken down into the Ka, the Ba, which is your personality, the Ka, which is your life force essence, or the Geb, which is your physical body. Now, we're trapped, remember I said in sensory input, sensory perception, we're trapped in Geb, physical realization. Everything has to be physical with us. We cannot conceive of the metaphysical, the abstract, because the left brain is not the seat of abstract thinking. So of course it's going to start looking at externals. It's going to say you're white, you're black, you're tall, you're short, you're Asian, you're Chinese, you're Japanese. That's all the left brain can do. So then when you have a society that's ruled by the left brain and polarized in left brain thinking, what happens? What happens? It creates problems for itself. And it has no way of creatively thinking and creative problem solving to get itself out of the situations it got itself into. For that, you need the right brain, integrative brain thinking. You need to connect the left and the right brain together to work. This is how all ancient civilizations, the Chinese, the Mayan, ancient Kemet, the Sumerian, Babylonian, all these ancient civilizations were integrated brain thinkers. Atlantis, integrated brain thinking. But there's more to it than that. Because we just can't have people with integrated brain thinking but still be Sahu or operate out the animal instinct, which is basically their emotional aspects. So our ancestors saw there was much more to who we were. And they categorized us in terms of spiritual growth. They said there's the Ba, which is the highest, the Ku, the Shechem, the Ab, the Sahu, the Kaheb, the Kahabit. Now, there are certain things in this life you should be striving to be. For example, you should strive to be an Eb man. Or a Shechem. A Shechem is a very powerful individual, a powerful Magi. Hey, Jay, what's up? Hetepu. So, you should be striving to be an Eb or a Shechem. And then rise yourself up to the Ku or the Ba level. Okay? Now, this is coming from the Port Netaru, the Tree of Life, which categorizes spiritual growth and development, the ascension. But the problem is, most of us are trapped in the Sahu way of thinking, S-A-H-U, meaning we are dominated by our primitive instinctive emotions. So you have people that go around and just are reactionary. They're reactionary. They're overly emotional. They are not in contact with Source, with God, with Netaru, with Nebuchadnezzar, with Yahweh, with Allah. They are not connected to Source because they're operating on a low frequency. But when you start on a path to spiritual development, you not only say, I am accountable for the things that go on in my reality, you now can control the reality because you're aware that you create that reality, and you start to move up from Sahu to Eb to Shechem to Ku to Ba. You start to raise your consciousness. But when you're in a left brain society, what does left brain want? Left brain wants hierarchical power. Hierarchical power. The right brain the symbol of the right brain is the circle. Because like King Arthur and the round table, what did King Arthur said? He said, we're all going to sit at this round table because we all are equal. No one is above the other. If you look at the modern Western education system where the teacher is at the head of the class, this is coming out of the Greek system, the teacher is at the head of the class teaching, because there's a hierarchical order. That's not the way it's supposed to be, but the left brain craves that hierarchical order. This is why you'll see in corporate America is all about climbing the corporate ladder. We respect the presidency. It's about climbing up there to get that position of power. It's all about power. We never thought about that in ancient times. We thought more precisely about spiritual evolution, spiritual ascension. Not external positions of power, but internal power. Okay, you follow me there. And it's important to understand that, okay? Now, when you are trapped in a certain mode of thinking, and even being trapped in right brain thinking is not good. Because if you're trapped in right brain thinking, you're not structured, you have no concept of time, okay? And you become so much of an internalized individual where you're meditating a lot, you daydream a lot. So that's not good. So let's take a quick look before I go into how do we stop this thing called racism or left brain thinking. Let's take a look at the processes of thinking. We have concrete thought process, we have abstract thought process, segregative thinking, congregative thinking, synthesis thinking, and analysis thinking. We are caught in today's world in concrete thought process. The problem that we have is we are not trained to think in abstract thought process. Because if you are trained to think in an abstract thought process, you could see a black person and then a white person and say, oh, you guys are the same because you are consciousness. You are consciousness. You are not Geb. You are not the physical body. You are not the vehicle. You are God within. You're consciousness. But the concrete thought process says, no, you're black, you're white, you're man, you're female, you're liberal, you're conservative. That's what the concrete thought process. But then what does the concrete thought process go on to do? It goes on to have segregative thinking. What is segregative thinking? It starts to separate everything based on externals. Now, as opposed to the right brain, which is congregative thinking. Now, congregative thinking brings things together based on external appearances, okay? Then we go on to synthesis thinking. Synthesis thinking is the ability to bring things together based on abstracts. Analysis thinking, okay? And this is the idea of the idea of like using analogies, okay, in terms of the thinking process. All right, so now, with that in mind, we have to understand how human beings think. Because when we understand the function of the brain, how it thinks and how it perceives the world, then everything starts to make sense as to why we're in the condition that we're in now. We know that we're ruled by the reptilian complex, or the reptilian brain, and the mammalian brain. So those two things together, what do they seek? They seek rituals. They seek power. It's the flight or fight instinct, the instinctive reactionary emotions. They're the primitive emotions that were the first to come along in so-called ancient times. Those are the first things that developed, the mammalian and the reptilian brain. So when the goal of what the Asar and Aset mythology or story is to rise above the mammalian and reptilian brain and to become Oser, operate out the frontal lobe, meaning that you are now using reasoning, okay, to dominate your emotions and to put your emotions in check, which is why Horus, is a symbol of the will. You have a free will. You have the ability to ignore your primitive instinctual emotions. A tiger, a lion, they have to go according to their instincts. They don't have a choice. All right? Now, what we need to start looking at is the fact that most white people cannot think in an abstract metaphysical way because most white people are left-brain thinkers. Most people who are of color, melanin complex, are right-brain, and they do think abstractually. They can think in terms of the metaphysical, which is why most cultures that you see that are melanated, let's call them indigenous people, have things like spirit communication. They meditate on astral projection. They communicate with the dead. They're very heavily involved in those things. They're very heavily involved in meditation, which is going within. Whereas left-brain thinkers rely on things like external scriptures to teach them morality, while the right brain intuits reality. It goes within to find morality. Whereas left brain says, I need a paradigm. I need a reference point for morality. So I need it written down and documented and categorized and labeled so that I can refer to it. Because the left brain doesn't wing it. You know what I mean? It's not, we're talking about, it's not creative thinking, problem solving. It doesn't intuit wisdom and knowledge. It doesn't do that. And the symbol that we use of the left brain is Sebek or Anubis. The symbol that we use for the right brain is Tahuti, Thoth, or Hermes. Okay? So, now let's get into the real deal of this thing that we call racism. And don't forget, guys, if you get an opportunity, please subscribe to the channel through Super Chat. And if you're new, we have some free ebooks that you can download. And I'm in the middle of writing a new ebook. It's going to be phenomenal. This is going to really document how to use your magical power within. It's going to have exercises that are very simple that you can do on a day-to-day basis that will change the reality, the fourth dimensional experience that's before you, to one that is to your liking. Because I'm going to tell you, when I wasn't a magi, I was getting my ass kicked by life. And that was for a good reason. Because my destiny and why I was brought here was for ma'at, to live truth. So life had to kick my ass to wake me up and say, you should be in the priesthood. You should be studying to be a shaman. And when I started to get on that path, I started to awaken to the fact that I'm God-man. I can create whatever reality I want. I can shift to a new parallel world where I don't have to deal with this ignorant bastard here. You know what I mean? I'm keeping it real. Or I don't have to deal with this Sahu person here. I can shift to a new reality. So this new ebook, it's going to really delve into that, the mechanics of how you can do that. And I'm trying not to make it complicated. I'm making it simple so anybody could use it. So it's called the Ankh Keperu Nu. And basically it means Ankh Keperu Nu is the Ankh life, Keperu, or Kepera, is transformation, and Nu is or Nun for the male aspect. Nun is the male aspect. Nun is the female aspect, or it's the waters, the primordial waters from which all things emanated from. And the water we use is a symbolization of the vibration, the vibration frequencies, because particles can come as a particle or a wave, you know? So that's what our ancestors were saying when they talked about the waters of Nun. They weren't, literally saying water, but waved, or particles, So anyway, so that's what the ebook is tentatively titled. Sorry, I got off the subject here. But it's going to be, I was really psyched about it today because I said, it's really going to help a lot of people, close friends of mine, so that they won't get their ass kicked by life, I remember she's a really good friend. She's pregnant now for the third time. And she was like, "Where are you going tomorrow?" I said, "Well, I'm going to such and such place." She goes, "Well, be careful. That place is, not the best places to go." And I was like, "Yeah, well, hell, I'm just going to shift to a reality where it is the best place to go." You know what I mean? And that's how you have to see your life. You understand what I'm saying? Job market, the stock market, I don't know if many of you know it, but the stock market went down. It was a big thing that happened. And there's no reason to get upset over that, because then if you start seeing stuff like that, if you are a student of transurfing, if you are a student of the law of attraction, or if you're a student of that good-looking guy, Kasankma Keperu, you'll know that all you have to do is just shift to a new reality, one where the stock market is up. You know what I mean? All right, so, so that's what you got to do, all right? Because ultimately, you want to take control. And you don't want to have to rely on external savior to get you out of trouble. So let me, I'm going to run out of time here, but let me get to the nitty-gritty. All right. What we have to understand, this thing, and I'm going to use the word racism because that's not really the problem. We know I've already said what the problem is: left brain linear thought process, polarizing left brain thinking, but to facilitate this conversation, I will say racism, okay? We know that the problem that we're facing is this thing called racism, but it is not really racism, and it's not really left brain polarized thinking. We live in a magical world. We live in a world where hidden beyond sight is the ruling elite, the hidden hand, an order that controls the planet. And what they have done is they have put into effect certain tools to ensure that the planet operates on autopilot. Does that make sense? Because when you have a population of 7 billion or whatever billion that's on this planet, that's very hard and difficult to control those individuals. But when you can divide and conquer and appoint taskmasters to help you rule, then things are a lot easier for you. All right? So what they did was they created the virus we call racism or white supremacy. And this virus is what they implanted or hacked into the psyche, the collective consciousness. There's three consciousness. There is the conscious waking state. There is the subconscious, which you can say sleep state, and there is the collective consciousness. So taking our knowledge out of ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt, ancient Taimeri, ancient Smaitawi, they have learned to hack the psyche and to implant a virus. And this virus is a living entity. Do you feel me? It is a living entity. It goes by the name of racism. It goes by the name of white supremacy. It may go by another name that they call it, but doesn't matter what the name is. It's still a virus that has infected the psyche. And what it does is, its first directive, its first primary directive, Star Trek, the prime directive, but you can't interfere with life on another planet. That's, you get the death penalty. The Federation will come along and give you a death penalty. The prime directive of this virus, this entity, is survival. Survival. How does it survive? By getting and feeding off as many people as possible. Many authors have come along and given it different names. In transurfing, it's called a pendulum. In the occult, it's called an ergogore. Whatever you want to call it, it's still the same thing. A spiritual entity that is operating independently, autonomously, on its own, to indoctrinate people into its process, its way of operating. It is basically parasitical, meaning it's living off the energy of these individuals. That's why in transurfing they use the analogy of the pendulum going back and forth, right? So let's further understand what this is and let's get deeper into this, okay? Pendulums, in accordance to transurfing, people who think in the same direction create invisible energy informational structures that directly affect us in a daily life. The bigger the fellowship that feeds the pendulum with energy, the more powerful is the pendulum. So those white supremacist, neo-Nazi, skinheads, individuals in government, individuals in secret society, feed the entity and make it stronger. Okay, let's go on. The egregore is an occult concept representing a thought form or collective group mind, an autonomous psychic entity made up of and influencing the thoughts of a group of people. The symbiotic relationship between an egregore and its group has been compared to the most recent non-occult concepts of the corporation as a legal entity and the meme. We are not dealing with a simple case of prejudice or of somebody having a certain perspective or belief. No, we're not dealing with that. No. We are dealing with supernatural, metaphysical entities because the world operates on magic. Science has their own name for this, and let's go to that. It's called the 100th monkey effect. The 100th monkey effect is a hypothetical phenomenon in which a new behavior or idea is claimed to spread rapidly by unexplained means from one group to all related groups once a critical number of members of one group exhibit the new behavior or acknowledge the new idea. So, egregores or pendulums can be purposely created for a mission, or they can be created when a group of people come together of like mind. When Hitler was doing his rituals, and he had his soldiers, his SS soldiers, and they were burning the swastika, that was a ritual to feed the pendulum, the egregore. That's what they were doing, to build up Germany. If you want to destroy racism using the legal system, using tolerance, education, the egregore or the pendulum will only get new indoctrines. It's only will go and get new people. You could lock up David Duke. It doesn't matter to the egregore. He's going, or she's going, or maybe he, she, or maybe he that's a little, fruity, but anyway, will go and just get another person. So in other words, you can lock away the people who've done the evil on the planet, but it will just regenerate itself. It'll regenerate itself. It's like the Hydra with all those heads. You cut off one head and it has other heads there and it grows in another head. You can't beat it that way. It's a powerful, powerful force that has to be respected. It has to be respected according to right brain, integrated brain thinking. And if you understand the story of Asar and the Set, Haru didn't kill Set because he said, there's a place for you in this world. So even egregores and pendulums must be respected because they're here for a reason. And they are life forms. Understand? So disrespecting them which is what you don't want to do. Or underestimating them is what you don't want to do, you know. How not to eliminate racism. Let's see, of all the means that we have tried, the means, methods, and steps that we have taken and tried to get rid of racism. How not to eliminate racism. Well, awaiting a leader or Jesus figure to save you. Religious dogma or scriptures of the second coming. Yes, we can wait for the second coming and that will correct everything. The legal system or political means. Economic empowerment. Protest. Physical revolution, which is bloody. Praying, wishing upon a star. Re-education. Or, sorry, this one was meant to say tolerance. So, we have tried those things. And I'm not saying those things won't work. Because some of them can be very effective means. Like I do think economic power combined with political power can go a long way. But if you do not deal with the ergogor or the pendulum, it's going to come right back again. Because remember, as I said, the prime directive of what it's all about is survival, and it will fight tooth and nail to survive. Okay? Now, let's show you, just as a reference, the Japanese mesquite monkeys. These are the basis of the 100 monkey principle. They noticed that these monkeys on one island were washing, I believe, nuts or something in a very precise way. And then monkeys on an adjacent island, which had no contact with them, the original monkeys, were doing the washing of the nuts in exactly the same way. So the first group, monkeys A, was shown that behavior. How did that behavior transfer over across water to the adjacent island to those other monkeys who never had human contact? How did they know to mimic that behavior? This is where they had the hypothesis that there is a collective consciousness or psychic realm that information can be transferred to and uploaded and downloaded and all of those good things. You know what I mean? Okay. Now let's move on. Let's get into, what didn't I cover? Let's get into being solution-based, all right? How do we eliminate racism? How do we do that? I have 5 ideas on ways that we can tackle this. And that doesn't mean that the other means that I've just talked about won't work or can't be applied in conjunction with these ideas. The first is the masses must switch from left brain thinking to right integrated brain thinking. That is a must. The masses must switch from this left brain thinking to integrated brain thinking to bring the divine feminine aspect back into it to balance things out. Because we are operating predominantly on the male masculine externalized thinking, left brain, sun cult. We've got to bring the moon cult back, meaning, again, right and left, the balance of the right and left. The second thing is we need to go dark. And this is a technique I've taught before in the past, where ignore, and this is for every individual, ignore and visualize with strong emotion and intent the state of the world they want. What world do you envision? Do you envision a world without racism? That's great. Visualize that. Hold on to that emotion. Hold on. Feel good about that world. This is transurfing or shifting to a parallel reality. If you can hold that, and enough people hold that, then that's when we start to move into the 100 monkey principle. That group or that people will shift to that new reality. Well, then you have people says, "Oh, you're talking magical stuff and magical science, and that's not going to solve anything. We need real change through revolution. Your revolution won't be televised. We need something that's going to be concrete, Kasank. Stop with that old magical stuff that's gotten our people into trouble." No, the world operates on magic. And if we had understood that and kept those secrets of ancient Kemet to ourselves, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in now. Okay, the creation of a counter pendulum or ergogore. We have to create another entity that will align with our wishes and work on our behalf. And it's already created. It's just not strong enough. It needs new initiates. By doing number 2, you'll be feeding it. And by feeding it, you'll make that good entity work for us in a very positive way. So the entity's waiting for us, and we just got to work with it. Sudden shift in racial demographics. All right? Now, there's this whole talk about the United States by the year 2045, minorities will be the majority. You know, the U.S. will become minority white in 2045 census projects. Okay? So this article actually details new census population projections confirm the importance of racial minorities as the primary demographic engine of the nation's future growth, countering an aging, slow-growing, and soon-to-be declining white population. The new statistics project that the nation will become minority white in 2045. During that year, whites will comprise 49.7% of the population, in contrast to 24.6% of Hispanics, 13.1% of blacks, 7.9% of Asians, and 3.8% of multiracial populations. Woo! Look at that. Wow. Woo! So we're going to get a piece of this pie. Don't you believe it? Don't you believe it? I don't think that will happen. Because I don't think that the pendulum is going to just sit there and idly allow it to happen. Prime directive, survival. You know what I'm saying? Last one, an act of divine intervention. God, Yahweh, Nebuchadnezzar, Jehovah, help us. Because we're facing an evil on this planet that wants to eradicate a large portion of the population. So, if God wants to intervene, then she will. But I wouldn't wait on that. I would have a backup plan, okay? I would have a backup plan. So anyway, all right. So I hope this has made sense. I hope this is giving you some insight as to what's going on. And that we have to take into account, along with sensory input, the metaphysical realm, magical operations about what's going on in our mundane world. Because if you don't look at things like that, you have a very skewed view of what's going on in the world, and you'll never understand how things really work behind the scenes. And what I would love for you guys to do out there is to take this broadcast and share it with family and friends and let them know what we're up against, how we can deal with it. You know what I mean? How we can deal with it. And you're going to get pushback because they're going to say, oh, you're part of that Hotep community. You're the ones that are believing in magical thinking. You know, what we need to do is we need to support the Second Amendment. We need to get arms, get up firearms and form armies. Well, let me tell you about that. You know, our military has weapons that they have not even told you about. They're black ops projects that they've been working on that can literally dissolve you with a beam of light. They're working on transporters, like you see in Star Trek. They're working on invisibility, cloaking technology. They have so much advanced technology where you wouldn't believe it. But you'll never see it because they're not going to show it to you. Why would they? Why would they? So don't think that you can go buy those 20-year-old weapons at the armory and think you can combat them, because the stuff that they sell and they put out there, that's old technology. They're just selling you old technology. They're not going to sell you the latest phaser gun, the latest blasters, the latest transporter system where it dissolves your molecules and reassembles them across the universe. They're not going to make that available to you. Are you crazy? That'd be stupid of them. I would think they're stupid if they did that. So go ahead and get all the arms you want. You're not going to win that battle. Okay? So don't forget to hit the like button on this video. And if you're watching for the first time, subscribe to my channel. Heads up, ooh, Stephanie, how are you? Yes, they are working on stuff 24/7. That's what they do. They have the time, you know. They definitely have the time, and sometimes, a lot of times, we don't have the time, you know. But time is an illusion, you know. It's an illusion. So again, so don't forget to support the channel if you can donate through Super Chat, or you can donate through the PayPal link at the bottom. It'll help me to finish the new ebook that's going to be coming out, which is the Ankh Kepara Nu. All right, so until my next broadcast, this is Kasank Ma Keparu, son of Tehuti and Ma'at. Amin Ra.